All right, guys, fine. So I guess we're gonna start then. Yeah, can you guys see my screen or no?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, guys, good. So I want to tell you guys that there are two versions of the IELTS exam. There is the academic version and there's the general version of the test. Yeah? Do you guys know that already or no?
It's type of test or it's structure of test.
No, the structure is the same. There are two different types. You can choose, yeah, before you choose the exam, you can choose if you want the academic version or the general version of the test.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so they are a little bit different in two ways. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but first I wanted to say that like the reason people take different versions of the test is that if, for example, you're planning to enter a university, then you need the academic version. Yeah, if you're planning to enter a university, or for example, if you are going to take some job, like I don't know, some very serious job like in marketing or something, or if you work in the economics or finance field, for instance, yeah, then you most likely need the academic version. So the general version, in many ways, it's just a lot more simple. So guys, well, the word academic already implies that you need it more for, like, for example, if you're going to study at a university abroad, if you're going to take some really serious job abroad. All right. Okay. Yeah. So guys, there are basically 4 parts of the IELTS exam. Yeah, regardless of which version of the test you choose, academic or general, there are 4 parts. There are 4 parts. There's reading, there's listening, there's writing, and then there's speaking. Yeah, so there are 4 parts on the test that are being tested. So while listening and speaking are the same on both the academic and the general, so what's different is reading and writing. They are a little bit different. So guys, listening and speaking are the same for both, for academic and for general versions of the exam. Do you guys understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay, fine. Then we can move further. Okay, guys, I want to just talk a little bit about the grades before we dive into the exam itself and before we talk about it in more details. So as you can see here, the maximum grade you can get is a 9. But it's a very high level grade. It's I don't want to say it's impossible, it's possible, but you usually don't really even need it. You don't really need a 9. For example, if you're doing this to enter a university, you most likely will need a 7. Well, in some cases 6.5 is allowed. So somewhere between like 6.5/7, this is considered to be like a good level, because it's like, yeah, it's about I would say, so it's B2. If you guys don't know that, it's an upper intermediate, and 7, it's a little higher. It's like a strong upper intermediate level of English. Are you guys familiar with different levels of English?
Yes, I understand. I think my level now it's B2 maybe.
Yeah, guys, so if you want to pass the test with a good grade, which would be a 6.5, it's already considered good, or a 7. Yeah, your level has to be at least upper intermediate, because also depending on the level, you kind of have to understand how much time you need for preparation. It's a commonly asked question, how much time you have, and of course it really depends on the level. But if you have an upper intermediate, a strong upper intermediate, then I don't think it's going to take very long, because all you need to do is you need to familiarize yourself with the structure of the test, and then because it's a test, yeah, you need to make sure you know what is expected of you in every part of the test. Like we said, there's listening, writing, speaking, and reading. So you need to know the requirements, and you need to know all the details on like what you're being tested on exactly and what is expected from you. So then it's not going to take you long if you have a strong upper intermediate. Okay, guys, so we can move further, I think. Guys, so as I said, yeah, we have 4 parts. We have reading. Yeah, so the first part is reading. Guys, basically 2 of these, reading and listening, they are considered to be the easiest part of the test because you're being tested on your passive skills. And writing and speaking are active skills. Because while you're reading, while you're listening, you yourself, you're not required to talk or write anything. So that's why it's easier to get ready for reading and listening, and typically people get the highest points on their reading part and their listening part, while the same people might get lower points for writing and speaking because these 2 skills are a little, well, they're more difficult than reading and listening since they're active. Okay, guys, and we're going to look through reading and listening, but we're mostly going to concentrate on writing and speaking because these are the most difficult parts. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the reading. Okay, guys, and as I said before, yeah, as I said in the beginning, the reading part is different for the academic and the general versions of the test. So on the academic exam, you have 3 texts. And they're like 3 big texts. They're usually about some research, or usually some scientific research, something like this. So yeah, the context is academic or educational. And then the general part of the test, the general version of the test, there are 5 texts. They are smaller and they are usually easier. Well, what do I mean by easier? When I say easier, I mean they are not on some, they're not about science. They're probably about some more like everyday life, and the vocabulary there is just a little easier than on the academic version. So that's why some people say that the general version of the test is a lot easier than the academic one, because on the academic one, the texts are just harder. If you are, again, yeah, so even though the academic test is a little more difficult, as they say, if you need it for university, then, well, you don't have any other option. You're going to take the academic one. Okay, so this is the general difference. However, there are 40 questions. There are 40 questions on the reading test, and you get like 1 point per each answer. For each correct answer, you get 1 point, and you have like 40 points maximum. You can gain like 40 points maximum. And the reading questions, the questions on the reading, they can be multiple choice. Do you guys know what is multiple choice?
Yes. When we check our answer.
Yeah, then for example, matching, or also, yeah, like matching something, or you can, for example, you can have a task where you have to fill in the gaps. And usually, sometimes when you're filling in the gaps, especially like on the academic version of the test, like sometimes you even have to paraphrase some sentences. If, for example, in the test, you had a sentence with a noun, yeah, and, or for example, you had a sentence with a noun, then on the, like in the question, if you're asked a question and you have a gap, sometimes you need to change the part of speech. Sometimes you have to answer with a verb. So the sentences aren't really copied from the text, no? Also, guys, there is a small mistake in this presentation. You don't get 40 minutes, you get 60, you get 1 hour. You get 1 hour, so this is a slight misprint, I guess. This is a slip, it's a mistake. It should say 1 hour. So you get 1 hour for 40 questions. Which is
how much time all tests spent?
How much time do you get for the whole test? Okay, guys, so look, you get 1 hour for reading, so that's 1 hour. Then writing, you also get 1 hour. Speaking doesn't last very long at all, maybe 15 minutes tops, maybe maximum 15 minutes. And then for listening, it's usually like the listening section is usually 30 minutes long, usually. Like 30 to 40, okay, because you will have some time to copy your answers onto the answer sheet. Also, usually, guys, the way this test happens is, for example, you do reading, listening, and writing in 1 day, and then speaking is sometimes done on a different day. Sometimes it works like this. So sometimes you have to come there on 2 separate days.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, guys. All right. What else? I think we can move on. Guys, maybe someone else has questions about the reading part.
And which topics can be on reading task?
Yeah, which topics? Okay, guys. Well, like I said on the academic one, guys, I actually have a good example. Look, there's a link here. How about I will send it to you? You guys can check it out. All right?
You can send on message.
Yeah, guys. Okay, how about I will do this a little bit like after, or do you want one right now? Do you guys want to look at the test right now? But usually on the academic test, you have like, you have some academic topics, some research, yeah, for example, or some history. So it's usually some scientific, some kind of, not like a scientific paper, but something that's about science, something that is about, it could be technology, it could be any topic, but it's usually some research. Usually some research. Does that answer your question, Vlad?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, guys. And also the questions, by the way, when you're taking the reading test, the questions appear in the same order as the information given to you in the text. Usually, like, this is like a helpful little life hack for you to remember that the questions appear in the same order as the information in the text appears. So you kind of know like which paragraph you can use to look for the answer. Okay, let's continue. Okay, guys, now let's talk a little bit about the listening part. So for the listening part, it's approximately 30 to 40 minutes. And basically on the listening, there are 4 parts of the listening. There are like 4 parts, and you don't listen to the audio in one big chunk. It is divided into 4 parts. There are like different audios. So the first one is like usually a conversation, like a dialogue between 2 people. And here, guys, it's not about science. It's just, for example, some kind of social context. What I mean by that is maybe it's someone booking a hotel or reserving some kind of tickets. It's just something like this. Something very general. So it's definitely not about science. So the first part is usually a dialogue. And the type of questions you have is, for example, you're asked to fill in the gaps. And guys, by the way, when you're filling in the gaps, if you're taking there are 2 versions of the test. You can take it like on the computer, like computer-based version and paper-based. Usually when you're taking the paper-based version, when you're writing down your answers, it's better to just write the answers using just capital letters. First of all, it's easier for the examiners to check, and second of all, if you don't know, for example, if it's the name like of some street or the name of some organization, you don't have to think about if you have to write it from a capital letter or no, because all your answers are in capital letters. So this is what's done for listening. You write your answers in capital letters. Okay, guys, yeah, so I said that there are 4 parts of the listening. The first one is a dialogue. Then the next part, it's usually one person talking. Again, some kind of social context, maybe about somebody's school, about somebody's studies. So it's not supposed to be scientific at all. Could be about anything, could be about some hobby, for example. Then the next part, again, it's some kind of conversation, but this time it has to be some educational context. Maybe it's students talking to their college professor. Maybe it's a teacher explaining some assignment and students asking this teacher questions. So something like this. Again, some educational setting. And then the last part is a talk by only one person. And it's usually an academic subject. But again, it's not very complicated. And the reason why it's not complicated is because listening is the exact same for both the general and the academic versions of the test. Do you guys maybe have questions that you wanted to ask?
No.
Not really? No. Yeah. Okay. All
All
right,
is
guys. So,
okay.
it's clear. Yeah. Okay, guys. And there are 40 questions in general, and again, you get 1 point per each answer. For each correct answer, you get 1 point. So all the questions, they're equal in the amount of points that you get. Yeah. All right. So no further questions. Yeah. So guys, again, here the questions appear in the same order as the information in the audio. So for example, if you missed a question or you don't know the answer or you didn't hear it and you already understand that it was already mentioned, but you just didn't catch the information, then you just have to move further and just leave it. And by the way, the audio is played only once on the listening exam. So you only get one chance. That's why you're given some time before you listen to the audio, you're given some time to look through the questions. Because you don't get a second chance. If you didn't hear something, you didn't hear it. So yeah, no second chance, which is sometimes hard. And another type of question which also appears on the speaking exam is sometimes a person clarifies some information. For example, when they're booking a hotel, they can be asked, can you please spell your name? So guys, when you spell a person's name, you say your first name and your last name by letter. For example, K-A-T-E, yeah, Kate. K-A-T-E-B-L-A-C-K, Kate Black. And sometimes the questions can ask you, for example, the name of the person or the name of the street that a person mentioned. So you need to listen carefully to the spelling, and this is another skill that you should have. You should be able to listen to how a person spells their name, yeah, says it by letters, and you have to write it.
As I know, it can be counts. It's very important.
Numbers, yeah.
Yes, it can be 8 or 9 and listen different.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you're asked to write down numbers. So that's another thing, yeah, you should be able to do is to, like you need to listen carefully to the numbers that they, that they say. Okay, so guys, we can move on unless you have some questions or no.
No, all is okay, understandable.
Okay, guys, so we covered reading and listening pretty much. So I said I want to concentrate on writing and speaking more because they are a little harder than reading and listening. So guys, for the writing part, again, this part is slightly different for the academic test and the general test. So in the writing sections, you will have two tasks, task 1 and task 2. So task 2 is writing an essay. And it's the same for both, for the general test and for the academic test. But task 1 is different. So if you're taking the academic test, you are going to be given some kind of chart, some kind of diagram, some kind of pie chart, and you have to write a summary of what you see in this graph. And then, for example, if you're taking the general test, then your task 1 is going to be to write a letter. For example, to write a letter to a hotel or to write a letter to a friend. Okay, here I guess it's impossible to say which one is more difficult, because if you are really good with numbers and if you're a person of logic, then I think task 1 is not going to be difficult at all. Because usually, even if it seems difficult at first, it just requires some skills. That's all. It can be fixed with practice. And also, there are also people say that the second task, task 2, the essay, if you're taking the academic version of the test, it is sometimes, well, people say that there's like a rumor that this essay is judged more strictly. So it's important to keep in mind. It's judged like a little more strictly, but still. And you get 1 hour for both of these tasks. You get 1 hour for everything. So you can usually just decide for yourself how much time you want to spend on each task, but the recommended amount of time you should spend is you should spend 20 minutes on task 1 yeah, on the bar graph if you're writing the academic test, or the latter if you're writing the general test. And 40 minutes you should dedicate to the essay. So usually this is how this goes. 40 minutes for the essay and 20 minutes for the, yeah, for the first task. Do you guys have questions so far?
No, I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right, guys. Also, it's important to remember that when you get your writing test, it's advisable that you start with task 2. It's advisable for you to start with the essay. And the reason for that is because the essay makes up about 70% of your overall writing score. So task 1 accounts for maybe 30% of your score. Task 2 accounts for 70%. So it's just more valuable to you. It's more important. Yeah, the essay is more important. Okay, now I wanted to talk about the differences. So as I said, for the academic version of the test, you have to write a summary of a bar graph or chart, and let's look at the example. Let's look at how this task, let's look at what this task looks like usually. So for example, guys, as you can see here, yeah, there's like there's a graph here. And it says it shows the consumption of spreads. There are 3 different things here. There's margarine, there's butter, and some kinds of low-fat spreads. And then you guys can see the consumption in grams, and then you can see the years. And the task says, you guys can read the task. And yeah, it says like the graph below, yeah, shows the consumption of 3 spreads. You have to summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Comparisons between these 3 trends. And whenever you get tasks like this, the second sentence of the task always stays the same. So your task is always to summarize the information, yeah, to make comparisons where relevant, to report the main features. This stays the same. But of course, everyone gets different tasks, yeah? So the first sentence is going to vary, obviously. You might get some kind of, let's look here. You might get some kind of, for example, table. You can even get a map, or some kind of process of how something happens, or a diagram. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, you have to spend about 20 minutes on this task, and you need to write at least 150 words, which is actually not a lot. So I think that you can manage to do that in 20 minutes. Usually, actually even less. When you get these 20 minutes, you should limit yourself to maybe like 16, 17 minutes, because you need some more time to check your piece of writing later. Yeah, after you're done writing, you need to check it. And if you see that something's missing, or if you feel like there's a lack of words, you should at least be able to make up 1 more sentence, if you feel like you haven't written enough. Do you guys have any questions, or not really? No questions so far?
Yes. Where we write this text on papers or in computers, how it can be?
Yeah, by the way, yeah, there are 2 versions of the test. There is computer version and there is paper-based version. Usually the paper-based version is just a little cheaper. That's the difference. But if you're taking the computer version, then you type everything. Here it depends, of course, on your personal preference. Maybe some people say it's more convenient for them to type. Some people say it's more convenient for them to write by hand. So it's completely up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, completely up to you.
How much it costs in general?
The full test, yeah. So guys, the one that is paper-based, it costs, I think, 3,900. And the computer-based IELTS test, let me check. I can't say for sure. It costs slightly more.
In hryvnias, yes?
Yeah, in hryvnias, yeah. So that test, yeah, the one that costs. Yeah, guys. So computer-based costs 4,700. So the difference is like 700 hryvnias. The difference between them. So the paper-based roughly costs 4,000. The computer-based roughly costs 4,700.
Okay.
So there's a small difference, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because for example, if it's difficult for you to type quickly, then of course it's better to take the paper-based version. But I know some people who hate writing by hand. It's stressful for them, so it's up to you. So this is basically task 1, yeah? Okay guys, there's a slight mistake here. It should say task 1. Yeah, so let's discuss the first task for the general exam. We said for the academic test, you have to write a summary, yeah, of a bar graph or of a chart. Here in the general exam, you have to write a letter. A letter can be either formal or informal. There are only 2 variations. Yeah, you can see here, there is a sample task here. Like a friend from another country is moving to your city for work and they're asking you for advice about living in your city. Yeah, and then you have to mention in your letter, and you have like 3 points that you have to mention. So they're obligatory, yeah? You have to answer each of these questions. If you don't answer one of these, or if you don't answer 2 of these, then it's gonna be minus some points for you. You should make sure you answer every single question. You should do everything that is expected of you. And what is expected is for you to answer every single one of these. Yeah, so this is an example of an informal letter, yeah, because it says write a letter to your friend. This is informal. Sometimes you're asked to write a formal letter. For example, write a letter to a radio host and express your opinion on some subject. In that case, it's going to be a formal letter. Here it's informal. All right, guys, so those tasks, task 1 is different, yeah, for academic version and for the general version. And here comes task 2. Task 2 is absolutely the same, regardless of which task you're taking. So here you have to write an essay. All right, here there's a couple of different types of essays. You have opinion essay, yeah, where they're requiring you to state your opinion. There is an advantage, disadvantage essay, some kinds of problem solution where you're given a problem, you have to come up with solutions. So these are the main types of essays. And here, yeah, for this section, you have to spend approximately 40 minutes. So if you spend more than 40 minutes, there's a very high chance that you're not going to be able to do the first task. Because for that one, you need, well, at least like 20, maybe 17 minutes. For this one, well, 40. If you spend more, then you're really risking it. Okay, let's look at the example, yeah? So here we have a sample question. It says, museums charge for admission while others are free. So charge for admission, it means they charge for entrance. And some museums are free. And the question is, do you think the advantages of charging people, yeah, outweigh the disadvantages? So guys, based on what we discussed and on the question, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Can you guys suppose what type of essay this is?
I think it can be about our life. Maybe it can be about some topics which is very important in media or something else.
Yeah, I agree, but I meant like we have different types of essays. Yeah, like opinion, advantage, disadvantage. So this is an advantage, disadvantage essay, because the question was, do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of charging an admission fee? Yeah, in this particular task.
I should agree or disagree, or I can say on one hand, on other hand, in general, something else.
Yeah, it should be, yeah, it's up to you. You can either agree or you can disagree. But in this case, this is actually a very good example of an essay task, because here it's a mixed type of essay, because while they're asking you for advantages and disadvantages of charging a fee, they also ask you, do you think? So they're asking you for your opinion. So in this case, this essay is like a breed. It's like a mixture of opinion essay and advantage, disadvantage essay. So since they asked you, do you think, yeah, do you think, what's your opinion? Then you should include your opinion in the essay, because sometimes the question will be, for example, do the advantages of something outweigh the disadvantages? So if there is no, or for example, they can say discuss the advantages and disadvantages of this. So in those types of essays where they're not asking you for your opinion, you should not include your opinion. You should only include your opinion when they're asking you, do you think? Yeah, what's your opinion? When there's a word you in the question, then it means they want your opinion. So only in that case, you should include phrases like, I believe, in my opinion. Okay, do you guys understand that? Is it clear?
Yes. And what about structure?
Yeah, again, very good question, because here, if you want to get the maximum amount of points on the writing section, if you want to get the maximum amount of points, then you need to think about the structure. So every essay should have an introduction, the main part, and the conclusion. By the way, I forgot to tell you that in this part, you should write approximately 250 words, well, not less than 250 words, 250 words minimum. So if you write less, that's going to be a huge disadvantage. So 250 words. So can you guys maybe...
If I write less than 250 words, what can be?
Well, you're going to get such a low score that it's going to be horrible. You're not going to pass the test with a good grade at all. So it's the worst that can happen.
They don't see really for this text like as a no.
Yeah. Well, also, for example, another frequently asked question is, for example, if you're doing the paper-based version of the test, not the computer-based version, how will they know, how many words you wrote? Maybe you wrote 249 words or 251 words. Well, like the only case where they actually count the words, word by word, is when they see, for example, that your essay just looks too small. If the examiner sees that your essay looks too small and he or she thinks that it's probably less than 250 words, in that case, they're going to calculate how many words you wrote. Usually people write like 300. Because if your level of English is at least like intermediate and above, writing 250 words, it's not a problem. It's not that many words, actually. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Juan?
Yes, and how much can it be the words? Can it be 300s, 400s?
Yeah, there is no limitation for the maximum number of words. There's only like the lowest. So the lowest limit is 250. You can write as many words as you want. However, it's not advisable to write more than, for example, 300 or, well, around 300, 320, 350 tops. Because if you write more, first of all, it's not necessary to write more, because everyone understands that you only have 40 minutes to write the essay, You don't have a week, you don't have a year. It's not some kind of research paper for a university where you have a long time. So everyone understands that you're limited in time. Besides, the longer, some people think that the longer their essay, the better, but that's actually not true. As long as you get the main point across, it's even better if your essay is concise, just short and to the point. So you can write as many words as you can, but it's in your own self-interest not to write too many, because then you won't be able to maintain, it's just going to be more difficult to maintain a good structure. It's going to be more difficult for you to check your essay for mistakes. And, well, let's face it, there's a higher chance, you're going to make more mistakes. So 300 words is sufficient. It's completely enough. Just don't forget not to write less than 250. If it's less, then that's just going to be horrible.
Okay.
All right, guys, maybe you have some more questions? Okay, so 250 words, maybe 300. So 250 minimum. Okay, then we can move on. We can move on and we can go to speaking. Let's talk a little bit about speaking. Oh, guys, no, let's I forgot to mention, we're limited in time, but I can tell you guys quickly. Usually your essay is going to be for 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph is going to be the introduction, yeah, where you will introduce the topic of your essay and you will state your position. For example, in this essay, since they asked us about whether whether it's a good thing, yeah, or a bad thing that museums charge an admission fee, you're going to state your position. Well, for example, you're going to agree with it, yeah, and you're going to say that the advantages of charging people outweigh the disadvantages. So this is going to be your introduction, where you introduce the topic and you state your position. This is your first paragraph. Now, the second and third paragraphs, the third one, like the next paragraph should be, for example, dedicated to advantages, yeah, and like the next one to disadvantages. So you have your introduction paragraph, then you have a separate paragraph for advantages, another paragraph for disadvantages. And then you write the conclusion, yeah, your fourth paragraph, where you sum up, yeah, all the information that you gave, and you make a conclusion. So I guess the most important thing here on the essay part is the structure of your essay. Of course, you should try to use complicated vocabulary. Of course, if you, for example, if your level is high enough to use a variety of different grammatical structures, you should do that. But one thing that is even more important is the structure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the speaking part. Okay, guys, so the speaking part, it's probably, well, it's the shortest part of the exam. It doesn't take long at all, usually. So what happens is you come into the room where you have your examiner, and actually while you're speaking, every word you're saying is being recorded. So you're being recorded. They do this for the purpose that, for example, if when you get your results, yeah, and you're unhappy with them, you can basically appeal those results. For example, if you think that some people may think that the examiner was too strict on them or something was unfair, then they're going to listen to that tape again. Yeah, they're going to listen to the recording and maybe reconsider their decision. Well, usually they don't do that. Usually they, yeah, like usually they still give you the same amount of points that you came with. But yeah, just keep in mind that you're being recorded. And the speaking part here, the speaking part of the test consists of 3 parts. So the first part is the examiner is going to ask you some simple questions. For example, if you are going to be given a topic about like studying or working, yeah, or for example about something that, let's imagine a situation if you're still studying at university, yeah, and you're given a topic about where do you work, and something like this is going to be really weird because then you're not going to be able to talk about it. So this is the purpose of part 1. They're going to ask you some simple questions to determine what topic to give you for the next part. For example, like, do you go to school or do you work? Or like, do you study at university or do you work? Yeah, that is the purpose of part 1, to ask you simple questions to determine which topics are suitable to give you for part 2. And usually you got like 2 questions. Well, usually 2, sometimes even 1. Yeah. Okay, guys. And then for the second part, you're given a topic and you're given 1 minute to prepare for the topic. So you're given 1 minute for preparation, and you have some paper and you have a pen or pencil, and you can maybe take some notes. You can maybe write down some ideas that you want to say. What else can you do? You can write down some words which you want to use. Just anything. You can take notes during this 1 minute, or just get yourself together, yeah, and think about some ideas about what you're going to say. And then after 1 minute is up, you're given 2 minutes and you basically have to talk, and it's a monologue. Yeah, it's not a dialogue. It's only going to be a dialogue, for example, if in the middle of these 2 minutes you stop and you don't know what to say and you're silent. Yeah, then the examiner might tell you, well, go on, please, yeah, or like, continue or something like that. So it's better just not to keep silent. It's better to keep talking. Let's see if we have a sample. Yeah, guys, let's look at the sample here. So we have part 2 sample question. Yeah, it says, describe your favorite shop. You should say where it is, what things it sells, what customers it has. Explain why I like the shop so much. This is a typical example, yeah, of a part 2 topic. Usually the topics here can be really different. They can be so random. They can be about like, what piece of art do you consider, for example, to be the best piece of art you've ever seen? Or talk about your hobby. What do you think about some environmental issue? Yeah, so the topics can be really different. They can be random. They can be like, what was your favorite toy when you were a kid? So that's why it's really difficult to predict what type of topic you're going to get. But just know that it's usually something just random, usually. Okay, then when you're given a topic like this, yeah, you can already see that here they're asking you about your favorite shop. So this is your topic. You should talk about, for example, a store that you like. And then you have, look, you're given like a topic with bullet points, where it is, what things it sells, what sort of people are customers. So guys, usually you can mention all these things, you can. But if you don't, it's not going to be a mistake. So these bullet points, this is basically some advice for you, or just some tips, some clues, yeah, for you not to be lost, or some helpers, some tips, yeah, what to talk about if you don't know what to say. But usually, yeah, if you have a lot to say, you may not even like look at these. You see, oh, okay, my topic is my favorite shop, and you can say whatever you like, yeah, on this topic, whatever you like. So if you, for example, if you don't mention one of these things, where it is, or like what sort of people are its customers, it's not a mistake. You're not going to be taken off any points at all. That's for sure. Yeah, this, so you just have to keep in mind.
I have a paper with this structure, yes?
Yeah, you're given a paper, yeah. And yeah, you also have a piece of paper for, it's like your personal one, where you can take notes. For example,
and I can see for these
yeah,
points.
Yeah, you can see, of course, yeah, you can see them. This is for you. You see this full text. Describe your favorite shop, where it is, what things it sells. Yeah, you see everything. Yeah, okay. You see everything. Okay, yeah, so guys, usually when you get a topic, and here the topic, it's, yeah, your favorite shop, so the topic is like shopping. Your level is probably, well, it's gonna be judged, for example, not because what some people like to do is they like to learn some sentences at home, yeah? They like to learn them, some universal sentences which fit every topic. Some phrases, some linking phrases that in their opinion can fit every topic. Then they come to the exam and they try to put these sentences into any topic. Well, sometimes it can help, but usually it doesn't work. It doesn't work because when you're given a topic, a specific topic, what's going to be judged is your vocabulary on this specific topic. So if you're given a topic about your favorite shop and you start talking about your hobby, and because, for example, you learned some text, it's not gonna fly, it's not gonna work. It's just gonna sound weird. Yeah. So yeah, you should try to use some vocabulary. Yeah, you should try to use some difficult and high level words and different grammar structures, but the vocabulary should fit the topic. It shouldn't sound like it's out of place. It shouldn't sound like you learned it beforehand at home, because they actually, one thing that examiners hate, both on the speaking part and on the essay part, is when people learned something and it's obvious that they learned some sentence and they're trying to cram it into their speech. So they actually hate it. What they like is your ability to speak spontaneously, yeah, to use this high level vocabulary easily without like learning it before, without learning some sentences beforehand. So that thing doesn't work. Do you guys have more questions?
No.
Yes, like, do we need to speak with a formal or informal language?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So usually on the speaking part, you should use, yeah, you can use informal language, because it's just like in real life. Yeah, when we're writing an email for work, or when we're writing a research paper for our university or for one of our classes at university, of course we have to use formal language. So this is our essay. For our essay, for our writing part, only formal language. For speaking, you can use informal language, and it's even better because it shows that you are a competent language user who knows that while you're writing, you use formal language, but while you're speaking, you're using informal language. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't use difficult and high-level vocabulary. You should use high-level vocabulary, you should. But for example, if on the essay, you write like, furthermore, yeah, therefore, it's gonna sound appropriate. But if you say these same words in speaking, it sounds a little out of context. Really, it does. So informal language, you can use it, and it's good to use it.
Is it principal which language we use? American English or England
Or
English?
British? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Both types are recognized as just equals, so you can use American English, you can use British English, whatever you prefer personally. It doesn't matter.
If I use some structures like gonna, wanna, is it good? It's not a problem?
On the speaking part, definitely, go ahead. For sure.
Okay.
Just not on the writing part, yeah? If you have to write an essay,
Yes.
you write gonna, wanna, they're not gonna like it. Yeah, but on the speaking task, definitely, you should, yeah. You definitely should use it.
Thank you.
Usually while you're speaking, this actually kind of relates to writing as well, but yeah, usually when you're speaking, for example, if you already used some words, yeah, and you want to mention the same things again, it's better to try to use synonyms. So don't repeat yourself. It's better not to repeat yourself, and it's better not to use the exact same words over and over and over again. Like, for example, if you say it's important, and then 3 seconds later, again, it's important, it doesn't show high level at all. It doesn't show your ability to look for synonyms, it doesn't show fluency, yeah? So of course, it's advisable to replace it with other words, yeah? So if you use, for example, it's actually better not to use important at all. It's essential, yeah? It's significant, it's crucial. And by the way, when you're getting ready for this exam, you should always, like, when you get ready, you should have a list of words to use instead of words like important. These are some of the words they actually hate. Yeah, if you say important, because it's a low-level word. Yeah, people, when they just start learning English, they learn words like good, bad, important. So these are easy words, you should replace them. And for example, also the same thing goes out for the word like. I like swimming, I like reading, I like. Again, it's gonna sound like a low-level type of speech. So you should, instead of like, I prefer, yeah, I'm fond of. So you should just try to replace it with other words. So usually for words like important, like, good, bad, easy, or words like beautiful, you should have a list of synonyms, yeah? You should just look them up, like, you should know them, and you should keep them in mind so that at the exam you will be able to use them, and you won't be repeating them over and over again. So the goal of the speaking part is to demonstrate your high level. So guys, we talked about part one of the speaking, where they ask you, for example, are you a student, yeah, or do you work? Or do you live in a town, or do you live in a city? So to determine what topic to give you for part two. Okay, then for example, you're given a topic, yeah, part two. And yeah, all right, so let's pretend like you already talked about it, you're done, you're finished. So then comes part three. So guys, for part three, the questions will be different. Typically, it's 2-3 questions. Well, usually 2 questions are enough for the examiner to understand your level. So, well, sometimes maybe 3 questions are asked. So guys, the questions here, actually, the topic of the questions is connected with the topic of part two. So if in part two, the topic was describe your favorite shop, yeah, you should say about what it sells. Then the questions on the third part are going to be, for example, what typical things can visitors in your country buy? Or, for example, do you prefer online shopping or shopping in malls in real life? Yeah, so these questions are going to be connected somehow to shopping, to the topic. However, the type of questions you're going to get is highly dependent on your speech in part two. Because if the examiner hears you talking, and if the examiner thinks that your level is not so high, they're going to ask you very easy questions. Yeah? For example, what can visitors buy in Ukraine? you're going to be asked some easy question. However, if the examiner thinks that your level, that you're a high level student, they're going to ask you more difficult questions, questions where, like some analytical questions, questions where you have to think. For example, what can shops do to make shopping more pleasant for their customers? Yeah, or do you think in the future people will do most of their shopping using the internet? Why or why not? So the higher your level, the more complicated the questions are going to be. Okay, also we said that part 2, the question, yeah, part 2, you're going to get like 1 minute for preparation, 2 minutes for speaking, and then for part 3, typically 1 minute per each question. Also, one more thing to keep in mind: if you're asked a question, part 2, part 3, you should speak until you're told to stop. So you shouldn't stop on your own. You shouldn't stop speaking on your own. The examiner, once, for example, they hear enough, it will just say, okay, thank you, yeah? Let's move on. Or, thank you, that's enough. Something like that. Because if you, for example, if you stop talking, and like the examiner is going to think that you don't know what to say. So it's going to be like a bad sign for them. And it's better not to have any pauses. If, for example, you have, because sometimes it's difficult to come up with ideas, yeah, like cases can be different. Of course, like, of course, in real life, sometimes we pause to think, but during the exam, it's better not to be silent at all. So you always have to speak. However, yeah, if you don't really know what to say, if, for example, if you're talking about, yeah, like part 2, yeah, let's come back to this example. Describe your favorite shop. For example, 1.5 minutes already passed. You have already said everything you want to say. You don't know what else to say, but you have to keep talking. Then you can use some filler phrases. Yeah, you can say, for example, well, or if you can say, like, or in the beginning, if you don't know what to say, you can say, oh, this is a really intriguing, or this is a very challenging question. I have never really given it much thought. Yeah, so you can use some filler phrases. Yeah, or while you're speaking, if you don't know what idea to jump to next, you can try to, yeah, you can just use some filler phrases. So also once you're getting ready for the exam, you can write down, you can have your own special list of phrases that you can use, yeah, just to fill the pause if you don't know what to say. So it's better just not to be silent. It's better not to fall silent and wait for the examiner to ask you more questions. But yeah, if, for example, 1.5 minutes already passed, you don't know what else to say, then you know what? You can just jump to another topic, yeah? You already described your favorite shop, and then you can, for example, if you're already done describing, but you have more time, then start describing another one. This is another.
Is it possible that examiner will interrupt us during our speaking part, for example, with some other spontaneous questions?
Well, they only do this in case where they see that the student is struggling to answer, where the student is like, and that's it, and just silence. Just silence. Then he can interrupt. Or, for example, he can also interrupt if you're asked about describe your favorite shop, and you start saying, I really like elephants. I like their color. They're gray. They're so pretty. It's gonna be like, if it's something weird like that, yeah, completely unrelated, then yeah, they might stop you. Or say, okay, but let's come back to our topic. What can you say about the topic? So in that case, yeah, they can interrupt you, of course. But when you're speaking, no, they will wait till the end and ask you questions during part 3. This is what happens. Guys, maybe you have some more questions?
And how you recommend to preparing for IELTS test? Maybe some courses, some internet resources?
Yeah, of course. Basically, yeah, it's all about practice. Yeah, so the more you practice, the better you get, especially for reading and listening. It's just about practice. Guys, I hope you guys liked it. Thank you for participating today. Okay, let's see.
Goodbye.
See you, hear from you soon. Yeah, bye-bye, guys.
See you. Goodbye.
See you. Bye-bye.